Hello, everybody. You're not hallucinating. This isn't a hunger-induced trick that your ears are playing. I'm actually English. In addition to being a suit wearer, I'm actually a scientist. So I currently wear two hats. I'm split between the University of Oxford Chemistry Department and Oxi Bio, Oxford Synthetic Biology. And so in less than 10 minutes, hopefully, I am going to take you through why we're interested in printing artificial tissues. So this is an image of a 3D printer creating an artificial tissue. So just to indulge some patriotism here, that's the Queen's face on a penny. This is about 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. This glass cuvette you can see here, that's about the size of a sugar cube. And we can see, hopefully in the middle of this image, an artificial tissue that's got branches inside it. Why are we interested in artificial tissues? He says, pressing a button frantically. Great. Here's 6 reasons why we're interested in artificial tissues. There are a multitude of diseases that affect the basic functioning of your body. Just as an example, here's a few of them. Acute pulmonary diseases, liver failure, diabetes, blindness, cardiomyopathy. And so we can treat some of these diseases with drugs, with small molecules. We've already heard about some of those today. But some of the time, you need to just take some of that tissue out and replace it with another one. But transplant organs are in increasingly short supply because the world's getting safer. So we have been developing technology for the last 5 years in Oxford, which in addition to being the film set for Harry Potter is also a university. And we actually have one of the biggest chemistry departments in Western Europe. We've got 2,000 researchers based there. We've got a few great success stories from the university. I'm sure a few of you are aware of Oxford Nanopore, which is a disruptive gene sequencing technology, which actually originated out of our lab. So that combines some biological components with some technological components, and they've produced a disruptive gene sequencer the size of an iPhone. Casting over to the right here, this is the cover of Science that we got a couple of years ago, showing an artificial tissue. So this is a soft, 3-dimensional structure that was printed like a petal and folded up to close in on itself. So Oxi Bio has a vision that combines these 3 elements. We think that there is incredible technology in Oxford. There's great people. We think there's clearly a need for prosthetic organs, is what we'll call them for now, and for these to combine some synthetic and biological components. So obviously, I'm an academic, so I'm going to give you a quick crash course in some stuff you don't know about yet. So on the top left here is our 3D printer. And really, conceptually, it's not particularly complicated. It's a glass nozzle that produces a small drop of water. Inside that, we can place cells. We can place functional therapeutics like nanoparticles, proteins. But essentially, a tissue is a small collection of well-defined droplets that are linked together. That can be a human tissue. That can be a synthetic tissue. That's a core design principle. So this was the image that I showed you down here. So effectively, that's a soft robot. That's a folding structure made out of small droplets that's able to move. So that, even though is built from a very simple conceptual droplet model, it has emergent function, which is movement. Top right here, you'd be forgiven for thinking that's just a jelly cube with a green line through the middle of it. This is actually a non-cellular mimic of a nerve. So this green channel that runs through the middle of this printed structure conducts electric current in a way very similar to a nerve. And for those of you who've ever seen what a nerve looks like down a microscope, it has an arborized structure. It's a posh way of saying it looks a bit like a tree. It's got a top and a bottom and a linking structure in between. So one thing to bear in mind as we're talking about this is just because something has one design in a natural system doesn't mean that you can't have the same function in a completely synthetic context. And what we've been working on for the last 3 years in parallel to this is actually just printing cells. So the advances in the fields of stem cell technologies have been in the news over the last 5 years, and it's staggering what is possible. And I think when you consider how this is converging with the accelerating fields of biotechnology, I think the promise is massive. And so we'd be loath to ignore the printing of cells in addition to creating synthetic tissues. And so really, we sit in this interface of a 3D platform printing technology, the ability to print cells into functional tissues, and the ability to mimic tissues using components that are completely non-cellular. And so again, this is what a high-resolution tissue printing structure looks like when the printer's running. So each one of these droplets is about the width of a human hair. So this is one of the higher resolution printing techniques available. I think from engineering, you may be aware that most printing or manufacturing methodologies need additional components to hold the structure together as you're printing, which is why we print in liquid. So we print a liquid droplet into a liquid. It's essentially a fancy vinaigrette. But we're able to create these ultrafine 3D structures. And so the total size of this block is 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. So this gives us fantastic resolution if you're trying to mimic a natural system. And that's what you need if you're going to attempt to recreate biology on a length scale that's relevant. This is what I was talking about before. This is essentially a soft robot made of droplets that's able to move. And the only stimulus here is the movement of water from an area of high salt to low salt. So all this is osmosis happening. So in the course of 15 minutes, this dumb material is able to fold in on itself, and the only thing that's changing is a water flow across it. Likewise, I've already described a nerve. So if we take small droplet compartments and introduce a pore that we've taken out of a toxin, it's a funnel-shaped protein that's able to enable solvated hydrogen to move from one compartment to another, and that carries a current. And calcium ions move in the other direction, and that's how you get a current flow through this system. And so in our right-angled channel here, we've got thousands upon thousands of these small pores that are able to carry the current from the left over here to the right over here. And so even though that doesn't look like a nerve, it performs the function of a nerve, but it's a three-dimensional tissue. And so what we've been working on recently is how we could take that powerful prototyping technology and combine it with some of the biology that's being done across the world. So this is where we get into cell printing. So these are the same soft three-dimensional droplet structures into which we've loaded human kidney cells in this instance. And so we can print them as a homogeneous square. Green is good. That means they're happy and alive. Red is dead. Of course, natural cellular processes mean that a small percentage of your cells are dying all the time. So this is a normal, balanced system of live and dead cells. Because we've got this resolution, we can start printing very fine arborized structures, so we can begin to mimic natural systems. And these tissues are able to grow and proliferate in a natural way over the course of multiple weeks. So I'm going to introduce our team. So Professor Bailey couldn't actually be here today, and he sends his apologies. But we've got Dr. Hadrian Green, our CEO, sat at the back of the room. So he and I are both here to talk to the many talented and interesting people in this room and work out where 3D printing of soft materials could be interesting in anything from regenerative medicine through to biotechnology applications. And so that I don't take any of your more time between now and lunch, I'm just going to leave you with Oxford Synthetic Biology. We're aiming to make synthetic biology real. More information can be found on our website, or if you email at info@oxibio, and we'd be happy to talk to you in person in the lunch break. Thank you.